I didn't expect the night to start with silence. Not the comforting kind, the silence of a home prepared for something that will never come. The dining room looked like a photograph ripped from a glossy magazine. Every detail, every plate, every folded napkin, every candle had been carefully aligned. I had obsessed over it for weeks, because tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight, I thought I might get my family back. But as I stood in that too-perfect room, a hollow ache crept into my chest. Something about the quiet unsettled me. It was too sharp, too final. My name is Emily Rhodes. I'm 36, and for more than a decade I've worked as a pharmacist at Cascade Medical Center in Portland. My life is built on precision, dosages, labels, interactions. Precision has always been my anchor, my way of ensuring control in a world where almost nothing else can be controlled. But family isn't about precision. And tonight, Thanksgiving night, I was about to learn how fragile family ties can really be. I'd been chopping, basting, and stirring since dawn. The turkey glistened with a golden crust, its aroma clinging to every corner of my small craftsman house. Bowls of mashed potatoes and glazed carrots lined the counter like soldiers waiting for inspection. The pumpkin pie cooled on a rack near the window, a pale wisp of steam escaping into the November air. This was supposed to be my chance. A fragile bridge back to the people who had slowly drifted away from me, my mother Charlotte, and my younger sister Maya. Dad was gone. He died of a heart attack 6 years earlier, leaving a wound that never healed. My stepfather, Daniel, had stepped into his place, kind and attentive, but business kept him away tonight. It was just going to be me, my mom, and Maya. Just 3 women. 3 very different lives. I pictured us gathered around the table, telling old stories, even laughing the way we used to. Maybe, just maybe, we'd remember who we were before grief and distance rewrote our family into something brittle. But by the time the clock slid past 6:30, the chairs around my table remained empty. My phone sat face up on the counter. I had called Mom twice. Texted Maya 3 times. Nothing. No replies. No explanations. The turkey was cooling by the minute, its skin losing its crisp perfection. By 7, irritation started boiling beneath my skin. I hovered near the phone, my thumb twitching over the call button, when suddenly, the doorbell rang. For a moment, relief surged through me. They were finally here. I smoothed the front of my navy dress, forcing a smile, rehearsing a cheerful happy Thanksgiving. But when I opened the door, the smile collapsed. The porch was empty. Cold air rushed past me, carrying the scent of rain. And there it was. An envelope. White. Resting neatly on the doormat. My stomach dropped. My hands trembled as I bent to pick it up. The handwriting across the front was unmistakable. Clean. Precise. My mother's. I tore it open, breath snagging in my throat. We went to the riverfront bistro. Enjoy your dinner. Alone. That was it. I read it once. Twice. A dozen times. My pulse hammered in my ears. They had left me. Not just late. Not delayed. They had gone to a restaurant. Without me. The letter quivered in my grip as a rush of disbelief washed over me. This couldn't be real. After everything I'd prepared, everything I'd hoped for, they had chosen a meal in town over sitting at my table. I staggered back inside, the envelope cutting into my palm. The glow of the candles looked mocking now, the food nothing but a reminder of wasted hours, wasted effort, wasted love. Something dark slithered through me. A suspicion. A warning bell. Because this wasn't just carelessness. It felt orchestrated. And I couldn't shake the chilling thought, why leave a note at all? That was only the beginning. What followed that night would rip apart every illusion I had about family. And it would push me toward a truth I had been avoiding for years, that sometimes blood ties are the deepest chains. But before I could process any of that, I had to survive the humiliation waiting in my own living room. As the clock dragged toward 8, my phone buzzed. Relief surged, until I saw the name. Mom. I pressed the screen, my voice sharper than I intended. Where are you? Her tone was careful, almost rehearsed. Emily, honey, I'm so sorry. Maya's friend had a situation. We're dealing with it. Don't worry, we'll make it eventually. Her words felt like smoke. Empty. Slipping through my fingers. I forced calm into my reply. I've got everything ready. Just let me know when you're coming. She promised she would. She always promised. And she rarely delivered. By the time I hung up, unease had hardened into dread. This wasn't the first holiday that had unraveled. But tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was supposed to matter. The turkey sat abandoned on the counter, the cranberry sauce beginning to congeal. The silence in the house pressed against my skin, heavy, suffocating. I poured myself a glass of wine, but even the burn of it couldn't loosen the knot in my chest. I told myself I'd wait until 8. If they weren't here by then, I'd call again. But at 7:50, the doorbell rang a second time. This time, I didn't rush. I moved slowly, almost afraid of what I'd find. The letter still burned in my mind. I gripped the doorknob, pulled it open, and froze. No one stood there. Again. Only this time, faint laughter echoed from inside the house. The laughter froze me where I stood. It wasn't the warm kind, the kind that belongs to family gathered around a table. No. This laughter was sharp, almost metallic, echoing down the hallway like a blade scraping concrete. For a heartbeat, I thought I was imagining it. The house had been silent all evening, so maybe the loneliness was twisting my senses. But then I heard it again, clear, cruel, deliberate. A door creaked open. And suddenly they were there. My mother, Charlotte, stumbled out of the living room, hand pressed to her stomach, tears streaming down her face from laughing too hard. Behind her, Maya appeared, her phone in her hand, the lens pointed directly at me. Did you see her face? Maya shrieked between fits of giggles. Priceless. The phone's red recording light burned like an accusation. My body went cold. Every muscle stiffened. What is this? I whispered. Maya shoved the phone closer, zooming in on my shocked expression like it was some kind of trophy. Welcome to episode 1 of my new series, Pranking My Family. This one's going viral, I swear. Her eyes glittered, hungry for validation, not from me but from the faceless millions waiting online. My mother grinned, still catching her breath. Isn't it hilarious, Emily? We planned this for weeks. The note, the restaurant, oh, honey, you should have seen your face. The words struck like ice water. Planned. For weeks. I looked at the untouched turkey, the untouched table, the wineglass shaking in my hand. You left me here, I said slowly, each word trembling. You left me thinking I'd been abandoned on Thanksgiving, just for a joke. Charlotte stepped closer, her smile softening like she was speaking to a child. Don't be so dramatic. It's just fun, sweetheart. You need to lighten up. Lighten up. The phrase snapped something inside me. I had risen before dawn, marinated, chopped, whisked, roasted, all for them. I had filled this house with warmth they had long stopped bringing. I had begged, silently, for connection. And they had traded it all for content. Turn that off, I said to Maya, my voice low, dangerous. She didn't move. The camera stayed fixed on me. Come on, Em, she teased, her smirk widening. You're gold right now. Look at those eyes. This is perfect. My hands clenched at my sides. I felt my pulse in my fingertips. The walls seemed to close in, their laughter pressing down like a suffocating blanket. You don't get it, do you? I said, louder now. This isn't a prank. This is betrayal. My mom's smile faltered, but only for a second. Don't be so sensitive. We'll eat together now, won't we? The food looks lovely. Lovely. The word stung. It wasn't about food. It had never been about food. This, I held up the crumpled letter still in my fist, this was a knife to the heart. You don't prank people with abandonment. Not on Thanksgiving. Not when you know what this day means to me. Maya rolled her eyes, her phone still recording. God, Emily, you're exhausting. It's just a video. People laugh at worse things every day. It's not that deep. The casual cruelty in her tone broke something that had been holding me together for years. Not that deep. My voice cracked. I've spent every holiday since Dad died trying to stitch this family back together. I've cooked, I've begged, I've hoped, while you've been chasing likes and followers. And you, I turned to my mom, you let her. Charlotte's face hardened, the warmth gone. Enough, Emily. You're overreacting. You always do. The words sliced through me. Overreacting. That's what they always said when I tried to tell them I was hurting. When I tried to show them the cracks spreading through us like fractures in glass. My hands trembled. The paper in my grip tore with a sharp rip, jagged edges fluttering to the floor like snow. You wanted a show, I said, my voice shaking but louder now, filling the room. Here it is. Here's your performance. I threw the shredded pieces onto the table. They landed among the untouched dishes, fragments of betrayal scattered across food I no longer wanted. Maya giggled, still holding her phone up, like my pain was nothing more than good footage. That was when the tears came, not gentle, silent tears, but hot, furious ones that blurred the edges of my vision. I didn't want them to see me cry, didn't want them to have that victory, but it was too late. And still, they didn't stop filming. Jess, my mom began, then corrected herself, Emily. Please. Sit down. Let's eat. Eat. My laugh came out bitter, hollow. After this, silence fell for the first time all night. Even Maya hesitated, her smirk faltering. I'm done, I said, the words final, ironclad. I can't play this game anymore. I grabbed my coat from the hook by the door. My mother called after me. Maya muttered something about me ruining the content. But I didn't look back. The front door groaned as I pulled it open. Cold Portland air swept over me, bracing, cleansing. The sound of their laughter followed me onto the porch, echoing like a cruel refrain. But for the first time, I didn't feel chained to it. For the first time, I felt free. I walked. The November night bit at my cheeks, the streets slick with rain reflecting the glow of traffic lights. Each step carried me farther from the house, farther from the suffocating weight I had carried for too many years. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew where I wasn't staying. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, half expecting another text from Maya, or worse, a notification that she'd already uploaded the video. Instead, the screen lit with a name I hadn't seen in years. Sophie Callahan. My breath caught. Sophie, my best friend from college. The one person who had once known me better than anyone else. Her text was simple. Hey last minute, but we're hosting a Thanksgiving get-together. Come if you want. Old friends are here. Would love to see you. For a moment, I stood frozen on the wet sidewalk. My family had left me gutted, raw. And yet, here was a hand reaching out of the past, offering something different. I typed back before I could second-guess myself. I'll be there. Sophie lived across town, in a converted loft near the river. When I stepped inside, warmth wrapped around me, not just the heat from the fireplace, but something deeper. Laughter filled the air, but it wasn't cruel. It wasn't mocking. It was real. Emily. Sophie rushed over, wrapping me in a hug so tight I thought my ribs might crack. She smelled of cinnamon and wine, and for the first time all day, I felt safe. God, it's been forever, she said, pulling back to study me. You look like you've had a night. You have no idea, I murmured, my voice catching. She didn't press. She just handed me a plate and guided me to a table surrounded by familiar faces from a life I thought I'd lost. And then, among them, I noticed someone new. Tall, with dark hair falling just over his brow, sleeves rolled up as he arranged dishes on the table. His hands moved with the confidence of someone who belonged in a kitchen. This is Ethan, Sophie said, catching my glance. He's a chef, planning to open a health-focused restaurant. You two should talk. He looked up then, and our eyes met. There was no mockery there. No hidden agenda. Just curiosity. Emily, right? His voice was warm, steady. I've heard a lot about you. I blinked. All bad, I hope. He smiled, and something inside me, something heavy and tired, shifted ever so slightly. Maybe, just maybe, this night wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning. The first thing I noticed at Sophie's party was the sound. Not just laughter, but the kind that rises from somewhere genuine, soft at first, then building, rolling across the room like waves. I hadn't realized how long it had been since I'd heard laughter that wasn't at someone's expense. Plates clinked, wine poured, voices overlapped in the easy rhythm of people who wanted to be there. I stood in the doorway for a moment, clutching my coat like armor, afraid that if I stepped further inside the warmth would dissolve and I'd be left out in the cold again. Sophie nudged me gently. "Relax, Em. You're safe here." I believed her. For the first time that evening, I actually believed someone. She guided me toward the table, where Ethan was arranging dishes with an attention to detail that mirrored my own when I'd prepared Thanksgiving dinner earlier that day. Only this time, it wasn't wasted. People surrounded him, praising his roasted vegetables, his cranberry glaze, his stuffing. He accepted their compliments with a modest smile, not boastful but proud in the quiet way of someone who loves what he creates. "Sit," Sophie insisted, tugging me into a chair. "Eat. Drink. Forget the world outside." I tried. I really did. I filled my plate, listened to old friends share stories about college misadventures, awkward jobs, failed relationships. I even laughed, though at first it felt strange in my throat, like a language I hadn't spoken in years. Ethan slid into the chair across from me. Up close, I noticed details I'd missed before, a faint scar above his eyebrow, the roughness of his hands, the calm steadiness in his eyes. "So," he said, resting his elbows on the table, "Sophie tells me you're a pharmacist." I nodded, chewing carefully. "For 12 years. I like the precision. Every dose, every label, it matters." "Precision," he repeated, smiling faintly. "I get that. Cooking's the same way. Too much salt ruins the dish, too little makes it bland. Timing is everything." His words struck something deep. He wasn't trivializing what I did. He understood it. "You know," he continued, leaning in slightly, "I've been working on an idea. A restaurant. But not just another trendy spot with overpriced cocktails. Something different. Something that actually helps people." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. "Helps, how?" "Food as medicine," he said simply. "Meals designed to be health-conscious, grounded in nutritional science, not just flavor. People don't think about how what they eat every day shapes their lives. I want to change that." I blinked. It was uncanny. His words were a reflection of thoughts I'd carried privately for years. All those times I'd explained to patients why they needed to take certain medications with food, why diet mattered as much as prescriptions. I had dreamed of merging my knowledge with something more tangible. But I'd never voiced it aloud. "That's ambitious," I said carefully. "Most restaurants chase trends. Health doesn't always sell." His smile didn't falter. "Trends fade. Health doesn't. People will catch on." For a moment, our eyes locked, and I felt something stir, a possibility, a spark I hadn't expected tonight. Sophie reappeared then, plopping a glass of wine in front of me. "Careful," she teased. "He'll recruit you into his grand plan if you're not careful." I laughed, but it wasn't forced this time. "Recruit me?" I asked, tilting my head at Ethan. He leaned back, unbothered by Sophie's interruption. "Why not? You've got the knowledge. I've got the kitchen. Together, we could make something real." I didn't answer. Couldn't. My mind was spinning, trying to reconcile the bitter betrayal of earlier with the strange sense of hope blooming in this room. As the night wore on, the party shifted. Some guests drifted toward the balcony, others settled into corners with coffee and pie. The air grew softer, conversations quieter, more intimate. I found myself alone with Ethan again, this time near the fireplace. He leaned against the mantel, his gaze thoughtful. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure. Why did you come here tonight? You look like someone who wasn't planning on being anywhere but home." The question sliced through me. My throat tightened. I hadn't told anyone, not Sophie, not the group, what had happened. The letter, the prank, the way my own family had turned me into a punchline. For a moment, I considered brushing it off. Saying something vague. But Ethan's eyes were steady, And something about that steadiness made it impossible to lie. My mom and sister, I began, then faltered. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. They pranked me. Left me a note saying they went out to dinner without me. Just to film my reaction for a video. His brow furrowed, his mouth tightening into a grim line. They did that. On Thanksgiving? I nodded, staring into the fire. I spent hours cooking. I thought maybe we'd finally connect again. Instead, they laughed at me. Filmed me like I was some character in their show. The silence stretched. My chest burned with shame, as if saying it aloud made it more real. But then Ethan spoke, his voice low, firm. That's cruel, Emily. Not funny. Cruel. I exhaled, the breath shaky. No one had said that to me, not even myself. I'd been too busy doubting, wondering if I was overreacting. But hearing him say it, with such certainty, felt like a balm. Thank you, I whispered. He didn't push, didn't offer hollow comfort. He just stood there, solid, like a pillar I hadn't realized I needed. And for the first time all evening, the humiliation loosened its grip. By midnight, the party dwindled. Sophie hugged me tightly, whispering in my ear, "Don't disappear again. Promise me." "I promise," I said, and for once, I meant it. Ethan walked me to the door. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening like glass. "Listen," he said, shoving his hands into his pockets, "I wasn't kidding about what I said earlier. About working together. Think about it." I hesitated. My instinct was to retreat, to protect myself. But something inside me shifted. "I'll think about it," I said softly. He smiled, that same calm smile, and for a heartbeat I allowed myself to imagine a future not defined by betrayal but by possibility. The walk back to my apartment was different. The city no longer felt hostile. The air was still cold, but it carried something else now, clarity. I realized I had been clinging to a family that no longer existed, a tradition that had died with my father. Tonight's prank had been brutal, but it had also torn away the illusion I'd been hiding behind. Maybe freedom didn't come gently. Maybe it had to break you first. When I crawled into bed, exhaustion pressed down on me, but it wasn't the same bone-deep despair from earlier. It was something else. A kind of release. For the first time in years, I slept without dreams. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my blinds, sharp and golden. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Ethan. "Morning. Hope you're okay." I meant what I said, "Let's talk." "Coffee." I stared at the screen, a slow smile tugging at my lips. Maybe it was time to stop waiting for the family I'd lost. Maybe it was time to build something new. The cafe was quiet the next morning, the kind of place where the smell of roasted beans clung to the walls and sunlight spilled lazily across wooden tables. Ethan was already there, laptop open, papers scattered around him like fragments of a dream waiting to be assembled. When he saw me, he closed the screen and smiled. "Emily. You came." I nodded, sliding into the seat across from him. "I figured I owed you at least one cup of coffee." He grinned. "I'll take it." We ordered, and for a moment I thought we'd fall into polite small talk. But Ethan didn't waste time. He pulled out a folder, spreading sketches of menus, floor plans, and marketing ideas across the table. "I call it Nourish," he explained, his eyes bright. "A restaurant that doesn't just serve food, it serves health. Dishes crafted to support people with hypertension, diabetes, even recovery after surgery. Real meals for real lives." I ran my hand across the papers, my mind whirring. "You're serious about this?" "Dead serious. But I can't do it alone." He leaned closer. "You know how medications work, how bodies respond. You understand what people actually need. I can cook it. You can guide it. Together." He trailed off, but he didn't need to finish. The picture was clear. 4 years, I'd been dispensing pills, reminding patients of side effects, repeating warnings that too often fell on deaf ears. This was different. This was prevention, not repair. I exhaled slowly, a weight lifting from my chest. "Let's do it." His smile widened, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't walking alone. The months that followed blurred into a storm of work. My shifts at Cascade Medical shrank from full-time to part-time. The rest of my hours poured into Nourish. Ethan and I met with nutritionists, sketched menus, tested recipes until our kitchen looked like a war zone of spices and cutting boards. We argued sometimes, about seasoning, about presentation, about whether quinoa could ever actually taste good. But beneath it all was a strange harmony, a rhythm that kept us moving forward. And with every dish perfected, every step closer to opening, I felt my old life, the hollow family dinners, the endless waiting for my mother's approval, fade into the background. For the first time, I wasn't clinging to something broken. I was building something new. Spring arrived before I realized it, and with it, opening day. The small dining room buzzed with anticipation. Local journalists had shown up, curious about the health-conscious restaurant with a pharmaceutical twist. Friends filled the tables, their faces glowing with pride. Even Sophie stood at the front, raising her glass in a toast before the doors opened. When the first customers walked in, my heart pounded harder than it ever had in the sterile halls of the hospital. But as plates left the kitchen, as smiles spread across faces tasting food designed for both joy and health, I knew we had done something right. I caught Ethan's eye across the room. He gave a small nod. I nodded back. We weren't just feeding people. We were giving them hope. It wasn't until weeks later that my phone lit up with a name I hadn't expected to see again. Charlotte. I stared at the screen, torn. For months, I hadn't reached out. No texts, no calls. The silence between us had grown thick, like ivy choking a wall. Finally, I answered. Emily, my mother's voice cracked through the line. I need to apologize. I said nothing. I didn't realize, she continued, her words tumbling out. That prank, it wasn't funny. It was cruel. Maya knows it too. We both do. We shouldn't have done it. Can you forgive us? Forgive. The word echoed in my mind. I pictured the envelope on the doormat, the sound of their laughter, Maya's camera catching every tear, every tremor. I closed my eyes. I don't hate you, I said slowly. But I can't go back. Not after that. Silence filled the line, heavy and suffocating. Maybe someday, she whispered. Maybe someday we can try again. Maybe, I said, though deep down I knew the truth. The bridge had burned, and I wasn't the one who set it alight. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet, my chest tight. But then I looked up. Ethan was in the kitchen, experimenting with a new dish, flour smudged across his forearm. Sophie was at the counter, laughing with a customer. This was my family now. Not bound by blood, but by choice. Months passed. Nourish grew, drawing people from across the city. Patients I once knew from the pharmacy walked through our doors, marveling that food could heal as much as pills. Ethan and I worked side by side, our partnership deepening into something more, though neither of us rushed to name it. One night, after closing, we sat in the empty dining room, the smell of herbs still clinging to the air. You ever think about that night? Ethan asked softly. I knew which one he meant. Thanksgiving. All the time, I admitted. It broke me. But it also freed me. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine. Sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best ones. I smiled, tears stinging my eyes, not from pain this time, but from something warmer. Yeah, I whispered. Sometimes they do. Looking back, that Thanksgiving prank feels like another life. A cruel performance, yes, but also a catalyst. It forced me to see the truth I'd been avoiding, that love isn't proven by blood, but by action. That sometimes the family you're born with can fail you, and the family you choose can save you. I lost something that night. But I gained something greater. And as I locked up the restaurant, Ethan beside me, Sophie waving goodbye from the sidewalk, I realized. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of tomorrow. I was alive.